Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. We are back with the 10th episode of our podcast series, voicED, where we are listening four pillars of the education system: learners, parents, educators, and employers, education leaders, and job creators. This is the wonderful experience we have been having for last 4 months to listen different views, and we are here to co-create the education system, reimagine, redesign, recreate the education system, which should be learner-centric education system. So welcome everyone. And before I start introducing the wonderful panel we have today, we will hold a minute of silence to gather ourselves and to be present in the moment. So welcome back. And we lost Harish again, I think. But anyway, I'll go ahead and start introducing the panel. So, yeah, wonderful. You're back. Okay, so we are. Um, I just want to introduce. I'm your host, Archana Parsai Gehlot, and I am co-hosting this podcast, Voiced, with my beautiful, wonderful, amazing co-host Mick. Mick is from US, but he currently is in Thailand, and he is a creative technologist and education disruptor. He is favorite teacher of almost like thousands of kids from 20 different countries, and I'm blessed to have him co-hosting this with me. So welcome, Mick.
Thank you,
We
Archana.
have and we have learner Raghu Bharadwaj today. He is an unschooler, but currently he is pursuing his BA in philosophy from Rutgers University, New Jersey. The favorite quote he has is, and I really loved that, Raghu. I think I don't know why this deep maturity comes into unschooler and self learners. I have been experiencing that a lot with the panelists we have. But there are two types of pain: the sort of pain that makes you strong, or useless pain, the sort of pain that's only suffering. I have no patience for useless things. Francis Underwood, beautiful. As an unschooler, he has been able to follow whatever and whatever, like many passions he had discovered. And following these passions led him to a different worlds, such as professional gaming, music, and other forms of art. And last but not least, he got into the philosophy and everything else which interacts with the philosophy. I think it's total integration of life philosophy. So wonderful, Raghu. And the questions he is holding is what legitimizes knowledge? Is it the source and or the content itself? In either case, what properties must they contain? Very difficult question, Raghu. I think I need to sit for hours to understand the question question itself. So welcome. We have Sejal Sharma today from New Jersey. She is my divine sister as well. I know her for many years now. A beautiful soul inside and out. She is a mother of two self-learner sons as well, Nimit and Satvik. They are twins. She is also a yoga teacher and holistic Ayurvedic coach. The favorite quote she has is "Be the change you wish to see in the world," Mahatma Gandhi. Her true journey in experimenting with her beliefs and principles began after she became mother. She is also a certified early childhood educator who turned to homeschooling after realizing the gaps in the current education system. And she is still on a quest to understand true meaning of education. She also started pursuing her passion as a certified yoga teacher and holistic Ayurvedic coach. And she is actually working a lot with children in the stories, any creative way she could engage children, her children as well as their friends, So welcome, Sejal. And the question she is currently holding is, how can we shift the focus of education from academics to character? Very deep question, at the same time much needed for today's education system. So hope we can find some answers while we are co-creating this together. Um, then we have Jessica Zapeda from Mexico. Welcome, Jessica. She was actually she was supposed to be on a plane today, but she had to postpone her travel. But I'm so happy to have you. And she came through one of the references we had earlier, like panelist from Netherlands, and from like Jeffrey. But so nice to know you and have you here, Jessica. She is also, the favorite quote she has is, through laughter we understand each other, never stop playing. Beautiful. She is a psychologist, a communicologist focused in psychoanalysis and kids psychology. She is also a founder of La Casa Clue, which is a not-for-profit since 2013, and it's a wonderful community place, learning place. I have heard a lot, and I would love to visit it one day, probably soon. For her, education is an exchange, a way to offer knowledge, to offer experiences, to offer a way to see and live the world, combining inputs and outputs. It's the way to connect with another being, sharing what they both have in their minds and hearts. And the question she's currently holding is very relevant and very apt, that why are we making the same mistakes again and again? We are not learning anything from, like, hundreds of years, probably last 200 years, we have been making same mistakes again and again. And finally, we have our esteemed guest from the corporate world today. He is from corporate world, but he is very down to earth and genuine person, Harish Narayanan. He is a chief growth officer at Upstocks. He was ex chief marketing officer at one of the biggest e-commerce platform, Myntra, in India. And he comes from IIM Lucknow background. The favorite quote he has is, "This too shall pass," and this is one of my favorite quote as well. So he is building world class growth teams that that grow business, win awards, and break records. He had the privilege of working in fantastic organizations with fantastic teams, and have learned a lot along the way. He started relationships from a place of trust and empathy. He loves technology and all things internet, and apart from marketing and technology, he is also passionate about helping others uncover their full potential. I know that for sure. He has been doing wonders with his team and mentoring the young generation. He also hosts podcast series called Best in Class. It is an experiment in human flourishing, an excuse to connect with outstanding folks, change makers, achievers, and thinkers, and bringing unconventional people like me as well. And he, like, across different fields, he takes a deep dive into the things what make them unique, and tick them in the world. So the questions, and very very deep questions, Harish, is, what is the meaning of impact? What is the best way to deliver impact? What is the value system that he wants, or like he wants to have her daughter to have? How do I balance between influence and freedom? How can I help others discover and get peace of mind? So with that, welcome, Harish, and welcome everyone. And I would now you know give this over to Mick, hand this podcast over to Mick, and he is going through three different rounds of questions with all the panelists, and then at the last we'll have a rapid fire round. So welcome everyone, and Mick, it's you.
Thank you, Archana, so much. Thank you, everybody, for being here. This is our 10th episode, and the conversations never cease to amaze me. We have such inspiring and insightful guests, and the experience that you all bring personally to this will really make this for a unique conversation, as it is every week. So, as we do in each episode, we like to start with our learner. Our learner not only deserves a seat at the table, but they should be the head seat at the table when all the things that we're trying to design and do are for learners. Why are we not listening to their voices more often and more prominently? And here we do that. So, Raghu, welcome to you. You are going to get our first question. I have to say, your question in your bio shows that you are a true philosopher. As just thinking about your question, Archana's like, I need days to figure this out. And I'm like, okay, let me think on this for a while. So, um, clearly a philosopher at heart. Your first question, Raghu, is what do you think about the structure of education currently, and how do you think it benefits and or harms learners' lives? We're talking about traditional education systems.
So I think in one way that it is a very clear benefit to people's lives is that um, it's a very fixed structure and it can give someone, something to rely on. And I find that for some people, right, the same people who wouldn't gravitate or work well in a system of like unschooling or free learning, um, they need something to keep their lives together. Something that will keep them going in a certain direction, even if everything else feels uncertain. But on the flip side, right, this is a very fixed and unchanging system, and anyone that wants to express individuality is going to have a very hard time doing so. I mean, this, like, whether it's the subjects taught in school or the curriculums that are forced upon you, or like standardized testing, right? I mean, that's kind of a different thing altogether. But it definitely crushes creativity in quite a lot of ways, I think. And I would say that's like one of the ways it harms it for sure. And yeah, I think that's what I've gathered for
Yeah,
the most
Raghu,
part.
you bring up a really good point, and this is something we talk about a lot. We often make a binary choice out of it. It either has to be completely free or there has to be full structure without any flexibility. And I propose that that is an unnecessary binary choice. Why can't there be some structure within free choice? Meaning you have these different pathways you can choose from, and then there's some structure within that to keep you in a direction moving forward. And so a combination of those things might be good for everyone. You got to make free choices and it led you down a lot of paths, but within those pathways, wasn't there some kind of scaffolding where you learned one thing and then went on to the next and on to the next? That's structure, right? It's just the structure that we experience in traditional school is rigid, inflexible, and as you were saying, it crushes individuality and really stifles it. So, great answer, and that really made me think about how you can combine those two things. Thanks, Raghu. Shejal, for your first question, and this is not going to be about you because you are a mother of self-learners, but for other parents in general, why do you think parents, especially in this generation, have become more obsessive and protective about parenting?
Um, well, you said this is not going to be about me, but
I was
I
wrong.
can't help but add a little bit of my experience to um, what I think about this question. So I think that personally, I was and to a certain extent still am an obsessive parent,
Mm.
to be honest, meaning for me, like being a mother precedes like any other role in my life. And this I believe is true for most parents, because it's such a natural instinct to be protective and to be like obsessive. I mean, you've just created this wonderful like creation, which is a miracle. So I mean, for me it's like, how can you not be obsessed with your child or parenting? And I know, like, I know a lot of moms like me feel that the meaning of like unconditional love is truly like understood after becoming a mother. Before that, it's just, insane. But having said this, I feel that when does this obsession or protectiveness um, become like bad or a problem? um, and that I feel like it's when it becomes a hindrance either for you or for your child, right? um, that and this happens when the awareness of like what you're doing and why you're doing what you're doing is not there. Like many parents are constantly on the go 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 lifestyle, and when you're too like busy observing other people's lives than your own life and like what you're doing, right? when that happens, I feel like the whole comparison, and all these expectations, that become sort of a hindrance, with this idea of being protective and obsessive. So I just feel like it's all about that awareness, like being aware of, like, what is your motive behind what you're doing. There's nothing. I feel like any quality, like even obsessiveness or protectiveness, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just how you're, when you're not aware of what you're doing, that's when it becomes sort of a problem, I feel.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really strong point. As an educator, I see the effects of when it goes too far on the kids when they come to school, and protecting them from mistakes, experiences, life in general is not helpful to them. Protecting them from failure is not helpful at all. Those things all build resilience, and being there as a support system for them is what allows them to become independent at some point. And the kids who have parents who are too obsessive about those things, they are constantly in a state of anxiety. They need constant, they need to know that am I doing this right? Am I doing this okay? They will choose the easy path over the difficult path every time, because what's been told to them is what's valued is their outcome, their performance. And so there is a really fine line there, but you're right in seeing that there is one side where you're just being a really great parent, and then going a little bit too far where it's actually detrimental to your child. So that's a really good point that you bring up. Thank you, Sejal. Hello, Jessica. Welcome. These are the questions I got to answer when I was a panelist, so I always love asking them of our educator guests. For your first one, what are the things you love about the education system in its current form, and what are some things that you hate or at least strongly dislike?
Well, something I like is that right now all the information is available for everybody. There are no boundaries, no limitations, and you can become an expert on any subject. So that's one of the things I love, that the information is just there available. And I really dislike that, at least in my country, the form is still the same, the form of education, even online or live now. But it's still the same, like there's a person behind a desk, and he's just talking, and everybody's writing and just following. They're not learning really to think and to act. That's something I really, really, really dislike. And also, the study plans that, at least in my country, are happening. Like, we've had the same plans for the last 50 years, I think. And it's not useful. Not all of it is useful. There's so many things that we learn in school that in our real adult life, you really never use. So I think there's a lot of just like things around the important stuff that are like just filling our mind, and is not really useful knowledge.
Yeah, Jessica, I often say this. Kids are carrying the history of the world's information in their pockets. And how are we teaching them to use that? The answer is we're not. We're teaching them to memorize information and these different equations and things. And my students will ask me, like, Mr. D, do you know how to convert Fahrenheit to Celsius? And I'm like, I mean, I did at some point, but now I just look it up on my phone like any normal human being on Earth with a device would do. And so why are we sticking to this antiquated, largely useless system when exactly what you said is true? These kids can learn anything they want to at a pace that they want to, and become, college level experts or higher at a much younger age. And we're not allowing them the chance to do that. And it's heartbreaking to experience every day as an educator. And I'm sure you see some of that too. Really difficult, but some good points. Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Harish, welcome. Our job creator, you've had some very interesting and cool corporate roles that you've played. So as an employer, someone that's been in that position before, do you prefer degrees or skills when you're deciding who to hire and who to bring in, to fit your company's culture, regardless of where you're working?
First of all, thanks for having me. I think it's an excellent panel, such a diverse set of opinions. I always love what Archana cooks up, and this is one more of those experiments I'm very happy to be part of. So it's a pleasure, and Mick, thanks for asking these insightful questions. I've been enjoying them as I'm listening to them. So thank you. I always look for, so for me, degrees or qualifications would be a signal, or sometimes a hygiene factor in that sense. So it is not necessarily the thing that I want to look for. In some cases, it tells me that the person can work hard, right? Especially in India. If you find somebody from a top tier college, it means that they have dealt with competition at the highest levels and hence they're hardworking. It's just a signal, right? Mostly what I look for are skills. So even when I interview candidates for positions in my companies, I always deep dive into one toughest problem statement that they have worked on, how they solved for it, what were the challenges they faced, how they overcame, what was their attitude, have they shown grit, have they shown a growth mindset. These are the signals I look for. As long as they have looked, as long as they passionately talk. So you can't fake passion in this kind of a tough question, right? So when they passionately talk about it and when they show clarity, usually that is the signal I look for. That is the biggest check mark that I want. Even if they come from a lower tier college, or maybe they have not gone to a college at all, those things come second. The work usually in my field, at least, the craft speaks for itself. So you can see a good marketer or a good growth person. So I usually look for work. Degree, qualification, etc., is used as a proxy to filter some basic requirements, but mostly the conversation is about skills.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I love that, using the degree as a proxy for other things. And just, you hit the nail on the head, which is passion and resilience, right?
Yeah.
Those are things that if you have those, we can train you to do the work. I was in a position at a startup where they were asking me to help hire teachers, and I said the first question you should ask is, do kids love you? Because training them how to administer your games or the philosophy of your company or anything else, if they already have that inherent passion and it's two ways, everything else can be trained. And so I love that you make that same distinction in your position of, if you have passion and resilience, I want you. And if you have a degree, that is an indicator of hard work, but not the determining factor. That's such an important distinction. And I hope more job creators are thinking the way you are, Harish, because
Yeah, and
we're trying to convince these parents that their kids don't necessarily need a degree if they have skill training.
yeah, and
Archana?
that's why I think we look more like up to you, like employers like you, to taking the top down approach on changing the education scenario, because it's ultimately parents' fear is that what is going to happen to their livelihood. Once the employers assure that we are looking for the skills and experience and life skills, the degrees come, and as you rightly said, that it's kind of one like indicator of hard work, which I totally agree. But if employers can work in a way where parents are assured, I think they would let their children follow their passion and bring out their creativity, not from the pressured system, but I think just self-motivated place it will come from. So
I'll make one point, Archana, and make, if I may.
yeah.
I think that the distinction to make here is, when we say self-learners, unlearners, I think the question of the future is going to be, how do you stand out and how do you give that signal that, hey, I know what I'm talking about, right? And especially in a country like India, I mean, I'm based in India now. There are so many students, so many youngsters who will say that they also can do the same job that you can, right? So for everyone who's listening in, I would say, instead of building a CV, build a portfolio,
Yeah.
right? So by portfolio, I mean a body of your work in the craft that you have chosen, and
Yes.
make it visible. And
Yeah.
and your portfolio, if it is strong enough, then that is a good proxy for your hard work, your CV, your achievements, your mentality, everything. A good body of work already
Yeah.
will beat any claim that anyone else can make.
Become your own brand. So basically all
Correct,
these
correct,
top tier institutes, they are the brand themselves, and people who are coming out of that, they took that brand, but
correct,
now it's the time to become your own brand. I think that's very rightly
correct.
you pointed out.
Yeah, digital portfolio. That's
Yeah.
the calling card of the future for sure. because
Yeah.
this is a
Yeah.
demonstration. This is what I can do.
Yeah.
You can see, you
Correct.
can hear my passion or my resilience through my interview, but here's instead of my piece of paper, here's my proof of the work that I can do. Great point, Sadish. Thank you.
Yeah.
Raghu, for your second question, now you're an unschooler, a self-learner. By nature, that's non-competitive, unlike school. So for you, are discipline and motivation needed, and how have you kept yourself growing as an unschooler or a self-learner?
So I actually think it's a different type of competition. It's one with yourself. You're the only point of reference you have, especially when you're in an unschooling or self-learning environment, is, well, yourself, right? And so when you don't really like have as much opportunity to reflect to other peers, it can be a little bit it's double-edged, like most things are, but sometimes it's definitely detrimental to the way that you perceive your own progress. Where like, am I really not enough? Like, what am I doing? Where am I on like this scale? Have I got it yet, or am I not even close? You know, and so I think like that's a big part to it. But and that definitely affects like things like motivation. But I think motivation is something that um is very easy to come across if you are in fact a self-learner, because a lot of the subjects that you will choose to follow, right, are things that you are interested in. They're not forced upon you, right? So a lot of that motivation is just going to come like that. Discipline is something a little bit more nuanced, right? That's more in like a territory of like, well, I got to put in the work too. And I think that if you really want to take whatever you're focused on to the next level, I think that's where you have to focus on, like, okay, how can I incorporate discipline into whatever learning that I'm doing currently? And I think that's how growth is produced. But it can also just be from having a sincere and raw passion for any subject, and that in itself can take you so far without even having to think about any form of like traditional structure or anything of that nature.
Yeah, excellent. This is what I love about our self-learners is there's kind of a common thread, and that's I don't need to be motivated because I'm choosing something I have passion and love for, and that in and of itself is the motivation. Another key point you make is just self-competition, as opposed to, like, I have parents come to me at parent-teacher conferences, and the only thing they want to know is, how is my child compared to everyone else in the class? And I shudder at the thought of them even thinking of their child that way, because in my thought, I'm like, here's where your child started, and look where they've come now. Who cares what the rest of the kids are doing? They're on their own journeys and at a different pace. And making those points at a young age like you, it's just like you are. That's just, it's a great thing to hear that you're that self-aware of, my own motivation comes from the things I love, and my competition is me, not everybody else out there. So excellent, Raghu. Thank you so much.
I will say though, like, just to add on a point, if you're in school, especially when you're like constantly exposed to other peers, while there are certain barriers in between you, you can kind of reflect with one another and be like, okay, now this guy is also struggling with this objective. You can see people around you also kind of struggling. You have other people to kind of to bounce off of, but there are situations in which self-learning can be a little bit isolating. And so I think something to watch out for is definitely try to upping your exposure a little bit to just people.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Yep. Maybe kind of,
Archana and I was
maybe,
just going to say, Archana, creating a community around those self-learning paths, right? So
yeah.
that people like Raghu don't feel isolated. They're on their own journey, but with other people who have a common interest where they can kind of gauge against each other. How are you dealing with this thing? Where are you at in your journey, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful.
Excellent. Thanks, Raghu. Sejal, your second question, this is something I've noticed a lot, which is a lot of fear-based parenting in this generation, especially. What do you think scares parents, and why do you think that many parents force their expectations on their kids?
So, first of all, I think these are some amazing questions because it gave me so much of an insight into just start thinking about like the root words and like what it means to me. Like, for example, like I thought a lot like for the past 2 days about the word expectations and like why do people have expectations, right? um so I think two things come to my mind, that generally when someone has put in so much time and energy into something, that's when you expect some sort of a result or an outcome. And obviously parenting is something that like you've put in so much, your soul, your energy, your life, your everything. So it's sort of that's where expectations sort of comes from. And number two, I think when as parents, like when you're not able to fulfill your own desires and wishes yourself, you sort of expect your children to fulfill them. Like for obviously, financially is like one example, but even like many parents sort of start living their like wishes through their parents, I mean through their kids, right? Like I wanted to be a doctor but I couldn't, so I'm going to make my child be a doctor, basically. So I think those are the main two reasons why people have expectations when they're not able themselves. And when because they've put in the time and energy, they want some sort of an outcome. But having said this, like why would these expectations, again, why would they be a hindrance, or why would they be bad? And that's, I think, that comes down to like, again, the perspective. How are you aware of why, like aware of what you're doing? What I said in the first question too, like, are my expectations for my own well-being, because I can live a pleasant life when I'm older, or because I can show off my, hey, look what a great child I've raised, to the world, what great job parenting I've done? Is it for my own personal gain and my well-being? Is that what my expectations for, or is my expectation for like a genuine well-being of my child? Or is it that because I really really want to raise um, a human being who's like, confident, and who's a good citizen in this universe? Like, so what does it come down to? Like, what being aware of, like, what am I, like, what is my reasoning behind my expectations, right? Because personally, I think it's going to take me some time to like be that, oh, I'm not going to have any expectations for any of the work that I do. It's going to take quite a few years or maybe like lives to come to that state. But I think, maybe transforming my outlook through this awareness and mindfulness is something that has helped me. And I think that can be a tool that can help like other people too. But yeah, the scary part is again, that, oh, because my dreams and desires aren't fulfilled, maybe my kids, their dreams and desires won't be fulfilled too. I think it's sort of a projection of their own failure, which is a little bit scary at their time, like for the parents, that I didn't do a good job parenting. So I think, yeah, projecting your own failures like onto your own children, that's a scary part. But
Yeah.
being mindful of expectations and why we have them.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you make an important distinction too in what's motivating the expectations. Is it how your child's upbringing and everything reflects upon you, or is it truly what's best for your child? I've often told parents who sought my counsel, focus your expectations on effort, not results, whenever possible, because what you produce then is a mastery-oriented learner versus a performance-based learner. Mastery-oriented kids, if they don't do well on something, they're like, well, I guess I have to work harder in that concept. Whereas a performance-based kid, if they miss 5 on a test, they're shattered. They're not smart enough. They're not good enough. And so just even managing your expectations on that minor switch to effort-based expectations, or did you try your best? Then I'm always proud of you. I don't care what your grade is. If you want to learn that concept better, you're going to have to work harder. It's a new concept, versus if you miss more than 4 on this test, that sets up kids for failure every single time. So great distinction that you made there, Sejal. Thank you so much. So Jessica, again, I loved answering these questions. This was probably my favorite one as an educator. If you have the authority to design your own learning space, your own school, what does that look like?
Well, like I have the luck of having created one, and I think it would be like Casa Club, an open place with outdoor spaces where kids can learn practical knowledge and can express themselves, and we can all learn from each other, and we can all like share the student teacher part, and a place where joy, laughter, play, and experimentation are the basis for acquiring new knowledge, I think.
Yeah,
Place
beautifully said.
investment.
The World Economic Forum always puts out these skill sets for like 2030 and beyond. What tech agnostic skills are kids going to need? And the top two in almost every one of those are creativity and social intelligence. In the space that you've created, those are the focus. And people often say, can you teach social intelligence? If social emotional learning is a core part of your curriculum, yes, they can learn it just like they do any academic subject. So if creativity and social emotional development are at the forefront, you're actually not just nurturing their souls, but you're setting them up for success in the future versus the poor kids who are forced to memorize useless information and regurgitate it on multiple choice tests. Those things can all be done better by robots now.
Exactly.
What's going to happen to those kids in the future? So your kids from Casa Clue are much better off than the kids in the traditional system, for sure.
It's a beautiful community. Mick, I keep hearing this from Jeffrey that, and I think wonderful thing is that digital nomads like Jeffrey has been traveling to these places and they are offering their experience and they're mentoring there. It just like so beautiful, like you are so much integrated with the entire like real life professional, real life learning and everything. So I would just like, get in touch with you, Jessica, and would love to fly down to see your
Yeah,
place.
of course. And it is so beautiful. Like Jeffrey, for example, he can come with his computer and he can teach them like some technological stuff. And then kids take him to the farm and they can teach him how to take like the potatoes out of the ground. So
Yes.
we're all like learning from it.
Same place we are building, co-creating in India as well. So Jeffrey will be soon at our place. So wonderful.
Awesome.
I also just love that give and take, Jessica, like giving the kids a chance to learn something new, but also to teach something to someone. That's so empowering to them as young people when adults they look up to say, wow, thank you for teaching this to me. They just think to themselves, I'm capable of anything. I really am. And that's such a beautiful approach.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Harish, for your second question, this is one we often hear job creators especially complaining about is that workers are coming to them from the traditional university system completely unprepared for even entry-level jobs. So what skills, aptitudes, qualities do you think current grads are missing in terms of the future of work?
Yeah, it's very true in many senses, and that also shows up in the unhappiness that young professionals have in their lives, right? When they join a new job. I think few of these points have already been covered in the discussions we had with Raghu, Sejal, and Jessica. But I think I'll bucket it into three parts, right? So first, I would say what is missing is flexibility or adaptability.
Mm-hmm.
So if you studied something all your life and you came in for something and then that something didn't work out, being able to pick something and something else, being more of a generalist, and the ability to have a very steep learning curve no matter what, right? That flexibility of mindset, or the mindset of, hey, I can pick something up and learn quickly and then get better at it and then perform well. I think that people tend to box themselves into, hey, I'm a finance person, I'm a marketing person, I'm an operations person, I'm an accountant, I'm a whatever, right? And then when they are thrown into a new situation, they usually take a long time to even adjust to the situation and then learn. So I think that in the future, I have a 5-year-old daughter, so I think of 15 years from now, 20 years from now, when she enters the workforce, I think jobs will change every few months. Yeah. Industries will change every few years, right? So the person who's flexible enough and confident in their flexibility will be the the winner. The second thing, I think our current university system, at least the one I went through, the school system prepares us very under prepares us for is we are never taught how to learn. Right? Learning to learn is a completely underrated skill. Nobody is taught how to take a subject and then become a master in 6 months, how to read a book, how to take notes, how to assimilate information and then connect it to other subjects you have learned, and how to form those mental models in your brain yourself without having somebody else having to tell you. I don't think anybody has learned to learn. Right? I'm learning to learn in my 30s. I'm and this I feel that it's too late. I wish I was taught, in my middle school. Here's how you can pick up a subject and become an expert very quickly. Here's how you take notes. Here's how you understand, really crystallize a subject for yourself. We were never taught that. So learning to learn is the second one. The third one I'll say is dealing with failure. Many folks I've seen, the first wall they hit, they give up. Because all their life they have been told, actually to your point, Mick, when you said, mastery versus performance, most children are taught to judge themselves on performance, right? They are told when they get 100 out of 100, job well done, right? It's not you studied hard or you understood a concept well, or there is very little focus on celebrating failure. Right? If you failed in something, telling them, hey, if you had not failed, you would not remember this lesson. So maybe it's a lesson to be remembered, or it's a chapter in your life that you will start from, or it will be a trampoline that will get you even higher. So that approach of celebrating failure or not being bogged down by every bump in the road. Many children, many youngsters, the moment they face something tough, they take it as a reflection upon their personality and themselves, and not so much of. I always say to my teams, right? Failure is an event; it's not a person. It's an event. It happened, and then you move on. Then some successful event will happen in your life. They tend to reflect it on themselves as a person. So I think the third one, children need to be told it's natural to fail. Most of life is failure. Right? Success happens once in a while. Failure happens every day. And that's okay. That is not told to children. I think these three things, is what I would say. Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Very true. Like the first point you made, one of the skills on that list I was talking about is embracing change. That's a tech agnostic skill. It doesn't matter where the job markets head, what new job markets emerge. If you can embrace change, you'll ride the wave with it, right? And to your second point about learning to learn, when is knowledge ever applied in the system that we have now? You memorize, you regurgitate, you move on. You memorize facts. In science, we do vocabulary and fill in the answers, then move to the next one. We're not given the opportunity to let them experiment and build and make and create and design things where they can actually apply the knowledge that they're receiving. And yeah, to your third point, it's just a really subtle change on the part of parents and on educators, which is placing value on effort over performance. If that comes from the adults in their lives, they will learn from a very young age that what is valued is me trying my best. I often tell my kids, no matter what anyone tells you, including your parents, although I don't say that, no one can ever ask you to do more than try your hardest. Me or anybody else is what I say. And so if you tried your best, I'm proud of you. And if you want to learn this concept, it's going to take a little more work if you didn't do well. And it's a powerful message to young learners. It can mean a lot in their lives.
Love the way when Harish put it, like failure is an event, not a person, And the other thing is celebrating the failures. And we have been at Asmakam trying to do it for last 4 or 5 years. Like we had actually gone to campuses, gone to different places, asked youth to come and share your failure, celebrate your failure, just in two minutes in any form of expression. Either it's a poem, either it's a speech, either it's a story, like written, whatever. Just like share your failure with the entire audience or entire, network, and you would feel so good about it because it's a lot of learning in a failure. And wonderful. Yeah.
That's a great concept. Love that. Thank you, Harish. Last round, back to Raghu. The third question is very similar for each of the pillars. what do you need from the three other pillars to feel empowered and supported, meaning parents, educators, and job creators? What do you need from each of those so that you feel empowered and supported as a learner?
So I guess from parents, it would mainly be just general empathy, I guess, like an expression like, hey, you were here too at one point, and to express that and to be regularly in touch with that would definitely be a much more healthy approach to parenting, right? To understand the various, points of irrationality that comes with, this extremely painful and very wonderful experience of like learning in like, these early phases, right? And I guess for teachers, definitely. So I'm not sure if this is on the teachers directly, but like we like need to reform pedagogy. This like especially in like I'm studying in college right now, and I find that one of the most like disengaging ways to learn is by lecture.
Mm.
You're getting like talked at, right? You raise your hand occasionally in response maybe, and you take down notes, and sometimes it's useful, but for the most part you're really not able to form your own ideas and really reflect on it, etc., right? And like organic learning is not really encouraged and facilitated. So that's a big thing, I would say.
Mhm.
And for job creators, you said, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Shit, I mean, we could go into like the structure of capitalism at this point, honestly. I mean, I think a big where do I even begin? This is a tough one. This got me stumped. So I would say that to look for, as I think the same question was asked to Harish earlier, where to look for like people who um, are very clearly invested in what they're doing
Mm.
rather than and at this current moment rather than where they will end up.
Mm.
To be really invested in whatever field of work or whatever position in whatever job, and for the sake of the work itself, to look for people with real passion rather than just looking at something as a means to an end, you know. And I think the ability to kind of pick that out and really encourage that is something that I could see being very helpful.
Yeah, excellent. I think the big one too, you hit the nail on the head as an educator. The one that resonated with me is there has to be a shift in the role of educators. For hundreds of years, they've been all-knowing dispensers of knowledge, standing up and filling the vessels with all of their vast knowledge of the world and subject matters. And that has to change. And that has to come from educators. Your job needs to be facilitator, support system, especially emotionally, mentor, guide, not all-knowing lecturer to all. So great points, Raghu. Thank you so much for that. Sejal, for your third question, um, who is the child that you think parents want to give to the world, or maybe specifically, who are the children you want to give to the world, and what role do you think you play in that learning journey for them?
So I think most parents are probably the best well wishers for their child, right? Uh, I think most parents want to give the whatever like the best version of what they think is important out to the world, like be it like um, if materialistically, financially, education wise, spiritually, they want like whatever that they could achieve, they want like a better version of themselves like out in the world, right? um, what role do I play in like their learning journey? I don't know if I really play a role, like honestly, because see, when even before the time of conception of my own children, I would always say to myself and to my God that, I'm not so sure what kind of children I'm going to like raise, um, and what kind of children they're going to turn out to be. But what I can say is I can't say I'm gonna be the I'm gonna like raise the greatest children, but I can say I'm gonna try my best to be the great mom. Like it's what I can offer, right? I feel like they play a more of a role in my learning journey than I play a role in their learning journey. I feel like it's sort of flipped. Like after becoming a mom, I feel like there has been so much insight as into like who I am, what kind of a person I want to be. Like every time I would tell them that, you know, oh, do this or do that, it again, you know, mirror reflection comes in my face. Am I doing it? Why is this of a value? So I feel like whether they want to make me an integral part of their learning journey, it's going to be up to them after a certain point. Maybe when they're a little bit younger, yeah, I mean that by the means of association, I'm the main association for them, so it will happen. But as they get older, it'll be their choice, like how much of what I've given them they want to pick up or they want to keep in their life. But um, right now I feel like they're more of a part of my learning journey, and I'm so grateful to them, you know, to my children for like allowing me to grow so much after becoming a mom, because they've really like, you know, knocked some sense into me, like what are you saying, you know, do what you say first basically, and then talk. Practice what you preach. So I think that has been the biggest lesson in my journey.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. I hope you've shared that with them, because again, that can be really empowering to kids. To they're so often just, you know, do as I say, not as I do. When you say, you know what, you're right and I'm wrong. How many
Yeah.
times do adults say that to kids? I say it all the time to my students, you know, which is I made a mistake right there, and I acknowledge it in front of everyone, because that makes them feel heard. That makes them feel respected. And that's one of the biggest, greatest gifts that you can give to them as a parent or an educator is, you know, being their guide, mentor, facilitator, but just giving them respect that they're not just your subjects. They are your equals in as many ways as possible. So I think that's a beautiful way to look at it, Sejal.
Beautifully said, Sejal, that they are more part of our learning journey rather than only thing. I think we can, whatever the way we look at that, how or what kind of child we want to give to the world. Probably it's like they are our mirrors, So it's on our part, like how we are leading by example and how we are leading our life. So I that's beautifully said.
Yeah. Modeling is way more important. Your kids will do what you do, not what you say.
Yeah.
That's true of
Absolutely.
all kids
Absolutely.
everywhere. They will emulate your behavior way more strongly than they will listen to your words. And so leading by example is the way to go for sure. Absolutely. Thank you, Sejal. So Jessica, for your third round question, as an educator, what support do you feel like you need from the other three pillars?
I think just confidence. That's it. If I have confidence from all the other pillars, then I can do my best.
Wonderful.
We can together create something better.
Yeah. I think that educators often don't feel that empowered. You know, they feel restricted by a system. And to your point, the freedom of the confidence from the other pillars might unleash what an educator is truly possible of doing in terms of being a guide and a facilitator and a mentor. So well put. Thank you, Jessica. Harish, for your third one, similar to some of the other in this round, what can the other three pillars, how can they support you to create an environment where you can offer a secured livelihood to more people?
I think for me it's the reverse. I mean, what help can job providers provide, right? So usually that should be more important. I think just to answer your question, I think make it easier for us to make that transition, right? Like I said, if there's a college student who is self-schooled through his life or her life, and they want to find a job and want to make it easy for a company to hire them, build a portfolio, right? Make it more visible for us to trust that this shift is natural and it's bound to happen, right? Similarly for educators, design more skill set based education versus, like you said, memory-based education. The world is going to be a lot more about doing than about remembering, right? Remembering has been relegated to our phones. So I think it's a lot more to do with doing, and we need a lot more change makers. And same with parents, right? I think uh, uh, taking the step to unschool or homeschool your child is a big step. And parents who have invested their time and effort, I think they are doing a great, wonderful job. And for learning from what Archana ji has gone through, I think it's a learning experience for all of us. But where that doesn't, when the rubber hits the road in terms of jobs, I think folks still tend to the framework or the flowchart of hiring somebody for a company has not changed, right? And that process or flowchart will change only when this happens at a large scale. And there is confidence in the work, there's confidence in the talent, there's confidence in the skill sets. So I think it will eventually happen. It's already happening, but just be at it. That's it, and it will happen. Yeah.
To Archana's point too, Harish, like it's going to have to come top down from employers first, because in my experience, the biggest impediments to change are, number one, parents, and number two, teachers themselves, who are very resistant to change in general. And the parents' resistance to change is just that they don't believe you'll hire their kids if they don't take those traditional steps and show their competitive nature throughout and get that top tier university degree. And so if employers are starting to come out in droves and say, here's what we want, now parents can allow educators and others who are providing different pathways to say, now will you trust us, as Jessica was saying, on this new pathway and learning journey? We can get your kids to that finish line with this pathway or with these choices of pathways versus the traditional education system. Actually,
one point I'll make. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
One point I wanted to make. This part is probably the easiest to fix. Okay, because employers are always looking for the best skills. If somebody is excellent at their craft, I don't care if they went to college or not, or where they come from, what they look like. As long as they can do their job really well, if they are the best at their craft, one sentence, okay, if they are the best at their craft, people will hunt you down. People will want to find you wherever you are, and we will hire you.
Yeah.
Just make it easy for us to understand that you are best at your craft.
Yeah.
Make it visible.
Yeah, but still, Harish, I think mostly in India, as I can say that employers are always looking for the pre-placement from the universities and big colleges, and they are not open to take any freshers from the out of the school, you know.
Sure.
So probably, I think as we pointed out and Mick said, that top-down approach where you know, at the corporate level or at the HR level, if there is some policy that this is not the filter criteria for you to have a undergrad or grad degree, but just submit your portfolio, and someone is seriously and genuinely looking at the work you have been doing. And probably, I think I feel that and that's what I tell every youngster nowadays, that be there on LinkedIn, because many professionals are watching you, what you are building for your portfolio, and they will reach out to you. Though you don't need to go through the proper channel, but you have to be basically seen to the people who want to hire you, you know. So I think this is something will help a lot. So
Harish, you actually gave me an idea, which is to start to go to, we just lost him for a second, but just to make a short film of some kind, something you can show to parents, that go to CEOs, go to CMOs, go to COOs, as many as you can find, and in succession, cut together them telling you, this is what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for Harvard grads. I'm looking for passion. I'm looking for resilience. I'm looking for a portfolio. If you can show enough job creators telling that to parents, to Harish's point, maybe parents will start to believe. And maybe that will allow us to create these different pathways that we're all seeking to create.
yeah.
Raghu actually had a question for you, Harish, that he wanted to ask, if that's okay. Go ahead, Raghu.
Sure.
Yeah, so you kind of said that, like, okay, you personally, right? You would be looking for someone that has a portfolio that's filled with, you know, I mean, experience, right? Job experience or work experience, right? Whatever, in whatever field, right? And so while that makes sense, right, to prioritize skills over some degree, a lot of places are still prioritizing, you know, the inverse, right? And so would you look for other ways of demonstrating that you have knowledge in this field, like rather than just job experience? Because there's a lot of places that won't let you get in unless you have a nice degree, or you have any degree for that matter, right? So where do you start building that experience, or like what point to you is like an acceptable place,
Yeah, Raghu, that's a very fair question. And a slight correction or a nuance I'll point out. I didn't say experience, I said portfolio, right? So experience means you worked in a company. Portfolio means you did the craft. So let's say the craft is video production. If you can show me that you have done brilliant looking videos in your last 3 years, or let's say your craft is digital marketing. If you worked for your friend's website, or you did your own thing, or you worked for a nonprofit and you grew that traffic 10x in the last 2 years, that's good, right? So it is more the craft that I want to see, not specifically you working for a company. It can be your own thing, it could be your own business, it could be your own portfolio that you do. If I'm looking for designers, I want to look at your work, right? Stuff that you have made. If I'm looking for analysts, I want to anything you pick. Like for example, let's say I'm hiring a data analyst, and maybe you created a website for analyzing weather patterns or COVID data, whatever. So if as long as you show me that you know the stuff and you are at the top of your game, it doesn't have to be experience, right? It could be work.
Okay, sure. Thanks for clearing that up for me.
Yeah.
Excellent question and answer. That is our 3 rounds. As always, I'm just astonished by the level of conversation. And this is the first time we've had, one of our panelists want to ask a question of our other panel. So Raghu, thank you for that. In our 10 episodes, this is the first time the responses have elicited that kind of response, and it's excellent. It furthers the conversation. It goes directly between the pillars as opposed to Archana and I asking of the pillars. So thank you for that. Excellent job, everybody. Now prepare for your rapid fire questions coming your way. Archana will let you know if you exceed her response time. She will let you know about it. I was guilty of doing the same myself. So Archana, I'll turn it back over to you.
Oh, thanks a lot, Mick. It was so, intriguing discussions that, I don't feel like it's like 1 hour already and we are still at the rapid fire round. But so rapid fire round is very interesting. And I generally have some surprise questions as well. But first question for all the panelists, and whoever wants to go, they can go first. Tell us one thing, probably in one word would be better, or one sentence that you would like to start, stop, and continue in the current education system. Yeah. Yep, Jessica, please.
Start playing more.
Uh-huh.
Continue laughing.
Okay.
And stop making the same mistakes.
Wow. Wonderful. Great. Who wants to go next? Yeah.
I can.
Yeah, Raghu, go ahead.
No, I think Sejal raised her hand.
Go ahead, Raghu. That's fine. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Learners first.
So definitely start reforming the way that we think of absorbing information, right? And the ways that we learn, like referencing back to what I said about the lecture setting. And I would say stop things like standardized testing. I think that it has very little place in a modern education system. And I would say continue some form of structure, some form of support, but definitely not have it be as overbearing as it is right now.
Yeah, stop grading is, I think, consistently is coming from all the panelists, like from all the 4 pillars. So this is something, yeah. But Sejal, you want to go ahead?
Yeah. Start, I think, an individualized approach to education, knowing that each child is so different. And this is something that learning Ayurveda, I'm realizing more and more how different we are, right? So yeah, start like there can't be like one plan fits all for education. Stop. Uh, well, continue with the resources, right? I think like that's probably one of the best things that we have right now. The endless amount of resources at hand, and that brings about so much creativity and innovation in education because of that. So continue with that and stop. Hmm. I think besides the grading, I think that the focus on too much focus on the academic part, like education is so much more than just academics and subjects. Like, so maybe stop focus on academics only.
Great. Yep. Harish?
I'll talk more in the Indian context, but start teaching real life skills.
Mhm.
So financial literacy, health, meditation, teach these things and how to learn. So making it more about preparing you for future versus cramming with information. I think that should be that's a big need of the hour.
Mhm.
Uh, uh, Stop, I would say, stop pressurizing kids so much. It's okay. I mean, they're kids. They should not be under so much pressure. I think part of it is also when I say education system, it's not just schools and policymakers, but all of us, parents, teachers, everybody, and continue. I think continue experimentation. So I think a lot of schools nowadays, I'm very happy to see, are trying new methodologies, are introducing new subjects, are trying new ways of imparting a certain kind of knowledge, challenging students. So it's a good wave of experimentation that I'm seeing. I'm happy to see that. So I would say continue that.
Great. There is this voiced poster has some some words written that in the new education system, or when we want to co-create a new education system, we want to move from the traditional or conventional words or conventional domains, from like that, to transition into something more meaningful. And there is a word on the poster itself, which is which is growth. And sitting with Harish, he is a chief growth officer, but I think we want to move from growth mindset to and this is a question which is a surprise question. So like, where do we want to move or transition from growth mindset to uh, where? And cheating is allowed. You can look at the poster and
Prosperity.
yeah, yeah, great. So yeah, so that is one question I just have on the panelist observation skills always. So okay, the question, second question for everyone is, one thing you want to you have unlearned or want to unlearn. Yeah, Sejal.
Um, I have definitely unlearned that there's no time or a limited space to learning. I think my like true love for learning began like in the last few years. I mean, I don't even know what I did in school. Like in the sense, I don't remember anything. There was no joy of learning, but when there is joy, there is no barriers like age, space, time, nothing. Like you can learn and um, at any time, anywhere,
Yeah.
basically. So this idea of like having certain years of your life for education, this idea of going to school for education, I think that's something that I've learned, that you don't need a space and a certain
Mhm.
age to
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah. Great. Makes a lot of sense. Jessica, Raghu, Harish, who wants to go second? Yeah, Raghu, go ahead.
So this is maybe a little bit uh, personal in a sense, but I kind of think of Bruce Lee's analogy for like emptying your cup before you approach something new, right? Emptying, kind of letting go of certain
Mm,
epistemic baggage, while like whenever I'm approaching a field, I find that I always love to make amazing connections between all these kinds of things, because there usually is something to connect. But um, you know, that can lead to really not being able to appreciate the beauty of the individual field or subject. And I find that um, you know, being able to maybe just let go of other things for at least a little bit and sit with it is
Great.
something that I wish
Yeah.
to you know, kind of
Yeah.
learn or unlearn to
Yeah.
bring things with me, you know.
Yeah. Jessica?
I think unlearn useless information,
Okay.
learn from others.
Yeah, wonderful. Harish?
I would say I recently, or a few years back, unlearned a lot of things about myself. So self-awareness.
Yeah.
I don't think we spend enough time knowing ourselves as a human being
Mhm.
and our
Mhm.
own minds.
Yeah.
That was a very fruitful journey for me.
Yeah.
So I would
Great.
love to learn and unlearn more about myself.
Great. Like along the same lines, one thing which as a community, what common practice or belief as a collective community we need to unlearn. Just maybe one sentence should be fine. So
I can go first this time.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, what we spoke earlier, right? Especially in the Indian context, failure being an event, not a person.
Yeah, yeah.
I think folks tend to be seen in a certain way if they fail. It should not be the case, right?
Mhm.
If you fail, it's completely normal. Just dust yourself up and start again. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Jessica?
Yeah, fear, I think.
Mm.
There's fear of failing, fear of what's going to happen if I try. That I
Mhm.
would say.
Yeah, yep. Sejal?
Um, just this outlook on learning, right? What I said, I guess, before, that we need to broaden our perspective when it comes to learning,
Mm-hmm.
unlearn this limited form of learning.
Yeah,
Um,
great. Raghu?
I would say I don't know. I think we kind of need to unlearn like our traditional views on various jobs actually, and
Mm.
like professions, right? Whether it's like plumbing or something menial, something supposedly menial,
Mhm.
right? Our perceptions like on it as a society are pretty harmful, and therefore like our approach to like things like trade schools and
Mm.
things that directly teach you a craft of sorts are not really like held up to the same kind of height as getting an education in law or like doing pre-med, right? And I think that that's something that we definitely need to kind of
Great.
rethink.
Yeah, great points. And I think we are running probably out of the time, so we'll just stick to one sentence or one word for the remaining rapid fire rounds. But if you were to write a book, what would the title be? Yeah.
Do more now.
Oh, what is that?
Do more now.
Do more now. Wow. Harish, yeah.
Purposefulness.
Purposefulness. Wow. Beautiful. Sejal and Raghu.
um, I guess a quote that I recently read in a book, which I really like. Probably I would name my book off of that. The purpose of life is a life of purpose.
Mm. Yeah. Great. Raghu?
Don't kill yourself before reading this.
Okay. 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 So, top three must have life skills and just in one word.
Three words.
Yes. Make,
Critical thinking for sure.
uh, make caught it as an educator. Yeah. But yeah, Raghu. Sorry.
Oh,
Go.
sorry. Critical thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Critical thinking. Just one? Like,
Oh, that's two words, right? So I was reading
no,
reaching
no,
a
no,
little
no.
bit.
Sorry. So, one word for each skill, each life.
Oh, I see. I see. I see. So, thinking. I'd say flexibility, and open-mindedness. It's hyphenated, but I guess it counts.
Okay. Yeah. Harish?
Grit, curiosity, and I don't think we talk about it enough. Compassion.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. Jessica?
Love, share, and be open.
Okay. Yes. Sejal?
Um, Cooking,
Mm,
um, cooking, how to talk with others, like how to communicate with any age, basically,
mhm.
um, and the developing like a joy of learning, like what I think Harish said before, like learning how to learn, like
Yeah.
that skill.
Great. Okay. Meaning of success in one word and meaning of happiness in one word.
I think I would say success, happiness, happiness.
Mick, Mick, you copied, so Mick intelligently said that for me, success is happiness. So I think, yeah, all the educators, like,
Nice, Jessica.
yeah.
I
Um,
think success and happiness both for me would be to to be okay with who you are,
mm,
to be content and to be able to like sit alone with yourself and be happy, like be okay.
yeah,
Many times we need other people or other devices or something, but to be okay with who you are.
yeah. Wonderful. Raghu and Harish.
For me, success and happiness are the same, and that is freedom.
Mm,
Being
yeah.
free in your mind, being free from your mind, being free from worries.
Yeah.
Freedom, being
Yep.
free. Yeah.
Wonderful. Raghu?
It's a tough one. I guess they would both. I want to say contentness, but honestly, the word that keeps popping into my mind is pain.
Uh-huh.
Meaningful pain.
Meaningful pain. Wow. You are so, like very mature, like in all the
Yeah, he's a philosopher at heart. I can see that
yeah,
now.
yeah,
Yes,
because
true philosopher.
like even like in the last panels we have like learners who are like 11 years or 13 years old. They are coming up with so deep and meaningful answers. Like we just like are amazed by their level of maturity. And that's why I think learner centric education is a much need of an hour, because they know what they want to learn, they know where they want to go. As an adult or educator or parents, we are no one to tell them what to do. So
Get out of their way and support
yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah, that's the best thing we can do. Yep. And okay, so I think this ends the common round for the rapid fire question, and there is one separate question for each panelist. And for learner, what is your favorite time pass, Raghu?
I'm gonna have to say uh, art, any kinds, paintings, movies, music, creating or observing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. For Sejal, what is one habit your children hate most about your parenting style?
You probably want to ask them, right? No, but I don't know about hate, but one thing that they often request or ask of me is they love it when I'm just very happy, tension-free, joy. Like they whenever they see me in a bit serious or stressful mode, they don't like it. So maybe that's one thing they don't like seeing me in
Mm-hmm.
a. They really, really like it's truly happy to see me happy.
Okay. Yep. Jessica, one thing you absolutely hate, but I think probably this question might not apply to you because you are already into a new kind of education and learning system. But one thing you absolutely hate, but you need to do it on a daily basis as an educator.
I hate having to sometimes like tell a kid to go out a little bit I hate when I have to be like serious, you know, when I'm like wanting just to hug the kid, and but in that moment I have to be a little serious and like ask them for a little time out. Just in like special occasions, it's super special. We usually tell them like if there's like some fight or something going on, we're like, okay, you can go water the plants and just like change your atmosphere, you know, get some fresh air and come back. But
Yeah.
I hate when it goes more far away that I have to tell them like go out for a second.
Okay. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hate having to be the tough one because I'm not.
Okay.
That's the toughest I can be,
That,
you know.
that was interesting.
You have
Yep. Yeah.
no
And
fun.
for Harish is one absolutely must have skills which you can't compromise when you are hiring someone.
That would be grit, ability to bounce back from failure.
Yes. Great. I think every episode we are, hosting this voiced. Getting deep and deep, and like like we are actually enjoying it a lot. Mick and I, we look forward to our once in a 2 week episode of voiced, and so learning so much from each one of you. And probably I think it's we are here to co-create some beautiful community all together. And I really appreciate your time today. Mick, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I like to say it's the end of almost every episode. Well, of every episode is just thank you for your inspiration from all of you in your own ways. Each pillar constantly adds insight for me as an educator, as a parent, just as a human being on earth. I just love these conversations and thank all of you for your inspiring answers, for your thoughtful answers, and just the inspiration that you bring through your own experiences and how we can all affect each other in those ways. So thank you for your honesty and your openness and your excellent answers. Thank you so much.
And really grateful everyone for your time, and like great amazing views on different things, which I think world is really looking for people to come up and share their views, and how do we create this system where, or new like learning community where our young generation is going to have a lot of fun. At the same time, we are going to learn a lot from them. So Raghu, thanks a lot. You really impressed us.
I appreciate it nonetheless. Thank you for letting me on here. It was really, it, honestly, every time I gave an answer, right, and then I heard everybody else talk, I immediately started reflecting. I'm like, I would have had 3 different answers for this now. Like, I don't know. It was very, a very insightful conversation to have, and opened my mind even more. And I don't know. It's nice to
Yep.
really talk about this.
Yep. And anyone wanted to add anything? Probably. I hope we could put up some questions which brought all your thoughts, and share it with everyone. So
No, this has been a learning experience, Archanaji. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah,
yeah.
the feeling is mutual that we learned a lot from you guys and from everybody on this platform. But thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Have a
And
good night and good day, everyone. And looking forward to the next episode of Voice. And would really
Thank
love if you
you.
could spread the words and we can get more educators, parents, learners, and Harish, for especially for you. Like we need more employers like you to come on board and share their views on like make parents more comfortable and educators more confident that they can have their own learning new style of learning patterns, but they are assured that it's going to work for the livelihood as well. So yeah. Great, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody.
Yeah, bye
Thank
It's
bye.
good to
you.
meet
Thank you.
you all.
Bye.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you.